Dr. Lisa Martinez rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. She had been working the night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station for 3 years now, and nothing exciting ever happened. Most nights she just watched empty space and listened to radio signals from old satellites. But tonight felt different somehow. The signal came in at exactly 2:47 in the morning. At first Lisa thought it was just another piece of space junk sending out random beeps. But then she noticed something strange. The signal had a pattern. It repeated the same sequence of numbers over and over. Prime numbers. Then it switched to the mathematical constant pi. Then it showed the Fibonacci sequence. Lisa sat up straight in her chair. Her heart started beating faster. These were the universal mathematical patterns that scientists had always said would prove intelligent. Life was trying to communicate. She had dreamed of this moment since she was a little girl watching the stars from her backyard. She quickly started recording everything and ran the signal through the computer analysis programs. The transmission was coming from a star system called Kepler 442, about 1/200 light-years away from Earth. But there was something else hidden in the signal, something that made Lisa's hands shake as she decoded it. Embedded within all those mathematical sequences was what looked like a distress protocol. Lisa had studied theoretical first contact procedures in college, but she never thought she would actually see one. The pattern was clear once she knew what to look for. It was a call for help. Lisa grabbed her phone and called Dr. Jake Thompson, the best linguist on the planet. Jake was not happy about being woken up at 3 in the morning, but when Lisa explained what she had found, he was at the station within an hour. Dr. Amy Foster, their xenobiologist, arrived right behind him. The three of them worked through the rest of the night, drinking coffee and trying to decode the alien message. Jake had brought his most advanced translation programs, and Amy helped them understand what kind of biological crisis might cause an entire species to send out a distress call. By sunrise, they had decoded enough of the message to understand what was happening. The aliens called themselves the Cathari. Their entire civilization was dying. Their planet's atmosphere was breaking down because of industrial pollution that had been made worse by changes in their sun's radiation. They had maybe a few weeks before their world became completely uninhabitable. But the most heartbreaking part of the message came at the end. The Cathari explained that this was not the first time they had sent out a distress call. They had been broadcasting similar messages for over 100 years, sending them to every spacefaring civilization they knew about in their part of the galaxy. The response had always been the same: complete silence. The final part of their message was filled with sadness and resignation. They wrote, "We send this knowing none will answer. We have learned that survival is a solitary endeavor. The galaxy has taught us that each species must face its end alone, but perhaps in some distant future, others will find our words and remember that we existed. Remember that we tried. Remember that we hoped, even when hope seemed foolish." Lisa stared at the translated message on her screen. Her eyes filled with tears as she read those words over and over again. Here was an entire civilization facing extinction, and they had given up hope that anyone would help them. They were sending out their final goodbye to a universe they believed was empty of compassion. Jake looked exhausted after the long night of work, but his eyes were bright with excitement. "Lisa, do you understand what this means? This is the most important discovery in human history. We have proof of intelligent alien life and they're in trouble." Amy was already running calculations on her computer. If their description of the atmospheric breakdown is accurate, this is the kind of environmental disaster that could be reversed with the right technology. We've dealt with similar problems on Earth during the climate crisis of the 2030s. Lisa looked at both of her colleagues and felt something stirring in her chest. It was the same feeling she got when she saw news reports about people rushing into burning buildings to save strangers, or jumping into rough seas to rescue drowning swimmers. It was the feeling that said some things were more important than safety or protocol, or following the rules. She picked up the red emergency phone that connected directly to Earth's United Space Command. The phone had been installed in every major research facility after humanity's first contact protocols were established. But as far as Lisa knew, it had never been used for a real emergency. General Kate Carter answered on the second ring. Her voice was sharp and alert despite the early hour. "This is General Carter. State your emergency." Lisa took a deep breath. "General, this is Dr. Lisa Martinez at Deep Space Monitoring Station Alpha. We have a situation that cannot wait for committees or bureaucracy or months of debate. There are people dying out there in space, and we might be the only ones who can help them. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then General Carter's voice came back, and Lisa could hear something changing in her tone. Dr. Martinez, are you telling me we have received a genuine distress call from an alien civilization? Yes, General. And according to their message, they've been calling for help for over a century, and no one has ever answered. No one has ever even tried to help them. The entire galaxy has just watched them die. Another pause. Then General Carter said the words that would change everything. Dr. Martinez, send me everything you have. Every piece of data, every translation, every analysis. I'm calling an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. If there are people out there who need help, then by God, we're going to help them. As Lisa hung up the phone, she looked out the window at the dawn sky. Somewhere out there, 200 light-years away, an entire civilization was counting down their final days. They had no idea that their message had finally reached someone who cared. They had no idea that for the first time in galactic history, their cry for help was about to be answered. General Kate Carter had been in the military for 30 years, but she had never received a phone call quite like the one from Dr. Martinez. She sat in her office at United Space Command headquarters, staring at the alien message on her computer screen. The translation was clear enough. An entire civilization was dying, and they had been asking for help for over a century with no response from anyone. Within 6 hours of Lisa's call, Carter had managed to gather representatives from every major nation on Earth. The holographic conference room at the United Nations Emergency Response Center buzzed with nervous energy as world leaders appeared one by one on the massive screens around the table. President Elena Rodriguez of the Americas Federation spoke first. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. We have received a distress call from aliens who are facing extinction, and we are seriously considering mounting a rescue mission to a star system that is 200 light-years away? Prime Minister Chen Wei of the Asian Alliance nodded grimly. The distance is certainly a problem. Even our fastest ships would take thousands of years to reach them using conventional propulsion. By the time we arrived, their entire species would be long dead. Chancellor Muller of the European Union leaned forward in his chair. And we have no idea what other alien civilizations might think of us interfering in this situation. For all we know, there could be galactic laws against this kind of intervention. General Carter listened to the debate for an hour, as the world leaders discussed all the reasons why a rescue mission was impossible or inadvisable. The aliens were too far away. Humanity barely had interstellar travel capability. The risks were too great. The costs would be enormous. Then Dr. Ben Clark, head of the Titan Engineering Consortium, stood up from his seat at the back of the room. Clark was known for his work on experimental propulsion systems, and his presence at the meeting had surprised everyone. "Excuse me," Clark said, his voice cutting through the arguments, "but I think you're all missing something important here." The room fell silent as Clark walked to the front and activated the holographic display system. Technical diagrams filled the air around him, showing spacecraft designs that none of the world leaders had ever seen before. "Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 5 years, my team has been working on quantum displacement drive technology. We've been keeping it classified because the applications are so dangerous. But the basic concept is sound. We can fold spacetime to cover vast distances in a matter of weeks rather than millennia." President Rodriguez stared at the diagrams floating in front of her. "Dr. Clark, are you telling us that we actually have the technology to reach these aliens in time to help them?" Clark nodded. "It's experimental. We've only tested it on unmanned probes and the power requirements are enormous. But yes, we could retrofit one of our exploration vessels with a quantum drive. The journey to the Cathari system would take approximately 2 weeks." The room erupted in excited chatter as the implications sank in. Prime Minister Chen raised his hand for silence. "Dr. Clark, what are the risks? What could go wrong?" Clark's expression grew serious. "The quantum field could collapse during transit, which would destroy the ship instantly. The drive could malfunction and tear the vessel apart. We could emerge from quantum space in the wrong location, or at the wrong time. We would be risking the lives of everyone on board." Admiral Ryan Mitchell, the senior naval officer present, spoke up from his position near the wall. "Dr. Clark, even if we could reach them safely, what then? We're talking about committing our most advanced starship, our best crew, and completely untested technology to save a species we've never met. We have no idea what we would find when we got there. The room fell quiet again as everyone considered the magnitude of what they were discussing. The first mission to another inhabited star system. Contact with an alien civilization. A rescue operation on a scale never before attempted. Then a voice spoke up from the back of the room. Captain Sam Morrison of the exploration vessel New Horizon had been quiet throughout the entire meeting, but now he stood and walked to the center of the conference table. With all due respect to everyone here, Morrison said, his voice calm but firm. I think we're making this more complicated than it needs to be. General Carter looked at the captain with interest. What do you mean, Captain Morrison? Morrison gestured toward the alien message still displayed on the main screen. We've just learned that there are people out there who are dying, and we have the ability to help them. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's unprecedented. Yes, we don't know what we'll find when we get there. But isn't this exactly what humans do? He paused and looked around the room at all the world leaders watching him. We run into burning buildings to save people we've never met. We jump into stormy oceans to rescue strangers. We risk our lives for others because it's the right thing to do. Why should space be any different? Chancellor Mueller frowned. Captain, this is not the same as rescuing someone from a fire. We're talking about interstellar diplomacy, potential violations of galactic law, and technology that could fail catastrophically. Morrison nodded. You're absolutely right, Chancellor. This is much bigger than rescuing someone from a fire. This is an entire civilization. Millions or maybe billions of thinking, feeling beings who are facing extinction, and they've been calling for help for 100 years with no one answering. He pointed to the message on the screen. Look at what they wrote. They've given up hope that anyone in the galaxy cares enough to help them. They think the universe is empty of compassion. Are we going to prove them right? The room was completely silent now. President Rodriguez stared at Captain Morrison for a long moment, then looked around at the other world leaders. I think we need to vote on this. All in favor of authorizing the rescue mission? One by one, every hand in the room went up. Not because it was the smart choice or the safe choice, but because it was the human choice. General Carter stood up and addressed the room. Ladies and gentlemen, we have work to do. Captain Morrison, how soon can the New Horizon be ready for quantum drive installation? Morrison smiled. General, my crew and I have been ready for something like this our entire lives. Give us 48 hours. As the meeting broke up and world leaders began coordinating the largest mobilization in human history, Dr. Clark approached Captain Morrison. Captain, I hope you understand what you've just volunteered for. This mission could very well be a one-way trip. Morrison looked out through the window at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. Dr. Clark, somewhere out there, people are dying and waiting for help that they don't think will ever come. That changes everything. The New Horizon left Earth's orbit exactly 48 hours after the Global Defense Council vote. Captain Sam Morrison stood on the bridge watching his home planet shrink away behind them, knowing he might never see it again. The ship carried 200 of Earth's best scientists, engineers, doctors, and specialists, all volunteers who had dropped everything to join the mission. Dr. Ben Clark had worked around the clock to install the experimental quantum displacement drive. The massive device filled the entire lower engineering deck of the ship, its crystalline components humming with barely contained energy. Dr. Maya Chen, Earth's newly appointed first contact specialist, had spent her time preparing diplomatic protocols for meeting an alien civilization, though she admitted that most of her training felt inadequate for the situation they were heading into. The first quantum jump was scheduled for 6 hours after departure, once they were far enough from Earth's gravitational field to avoid any interference. Morrison gathered his senior staff in the main conference room as they approached the jump coordinates. I won't lie to you, Morrison told his officers. Dr. Clark's team has only tested this technology on small unmanned probes. We're about to become the first human crew to attempt quantum displacement with a ship this size. If something goes wrong, we won't even have time to know about it. Dr. Clark checked his instruments one final time. Captain, all systems are showing green. The quantum field generators are stable, and the navigation computer has calculated our trajectory. We should emerge approximately 2 light-years closer to the Cathari system. Morrison nodded and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands prepare for quantum jump in 30 seconds. Secure all equipment and brace for displacement. The countdown reached 0 and reality bent around them. The stars outside the window stretched into lines of light, then twisted into impossible geometries as the ship slipped between dimensions. For a moment that felt like an eternity, the New Horizon existed in a space between spaces, where the normal laws of physics no longer applied. Then they snapped back into normal space with a violent shudder that ran through the entire ship. Emergency alarms began blaring as damaged systems throughout the vessel reported failures. The quantum jump had worked, but at a cost. Chief Engineer Rachel Martinez rushed onto the bridge with damage reports. "Captain, we've got stress fractures in the hull along decks 7 through 9. The quantum field interaction was more violent than our simulations predicted. If we keep jumping at this intensity, the ship won't survive the journey." Dr. Clark studied the readings from the quantum drive. "The power fluctuations are worse than expected. Each jump is putting enormous strain on our systems. We'll need to reduce the displacement distance and allow more time between jumps for repairs." Morrison made the decision that would define the rest of their journey. "We continue. Reduce jump distances if you have to, but we don't turn back. Every day we delay is another day closer to the Cathari extinction." For the next week, the New Horizon limped through space, making shorter quantum jumps and stopping between each one to repair the damage. The crew worked in shifts around the clock, welding hull breaches and replacing burned-out components. Everyone knew they were pushing their ship beyond its limits, but no one complained. Halfway through their journey, they received another transmission from the Cathari system. Dr. Chen and her linguistics team worked frantically to decode it, and what they found amazed them. The message was not a distress call this time. Instead, it was something that had never been heard before in the galaxy's history. The Cathari were broadcasting updates to their entire population about humanity's rescue mission. They had somehow detected the New Horizon's quantum signatures and knew that help was actually coming. Dr. Chen called Morrison to the communication center to hear the translated message. The alien words, converted into English by their computers, carried an emotion that was unmistakable even across the vast differences between species. "To all Cathari everywhere," the message began, "the impossible has happened. Someone has answered our call. Unknown beings from a distant world have heard our plea and are traveling across the void to reach us. We do not know who they are or why they would risk everything to help strangers, but they are coming." The message continued with what could only be described as wonder. "For the first time in our history, we are not alone in our struggle. For the first time in 100 years of calling into the darkness, someone has called back. Let this be a lesson to our children and their children. The universe is not empty of kindness. Hope was not foolish after all." Morrison listened to the entire broadcast, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Dr. Chen, they're counting on us now. An entire civilization has gone from despair to hope because of what we're doing." Chen nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Captain, there's something else you should know. We've been monitoring other communications in this region of space, and word of our mission is spreading. Other alien civilizations are talking about what humanity is doing. Unknown to the humans, their journey was indeed being watched by ancient powers." Light years away, the Galactic Observation Council convened an emergency session. Elder Vexira of the Altarian hegemony addressed the assembly with barely concealed irritation. "The humans show remarkable naivety," Vexira said to the gathered representatives of a dozen spacefaring civilizations. "Do they not understand that the Cathari situation is hopeless? That their interference violates our most fundamental non-intervention protocols?" Elder Kelman of the Andromedan Collective, one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, responded with a voice heavy with centuries of regret. "When did we stop trying to save each other, Vexira? When did survival become more important than compassion? I remember a time when our people would have done what these humans are doing." The debate in the council chambers grew heated as younger civilizations argued with their elders about the proper response to humanity's unprecedented action. Some wanted to stop the New Horizon before it could reach the Cathari. Others found themselves remembering their own species' early idealism before they learned to accept the galaxy's harsh realities. Back on the New Horizon, Morrison stood in the observation deck watching the stars stream past during their latest quantum jump. Dr. Maya Chen joined him carrying a tablet with their latest communications from Earth. "Captain, we've received messages of support from every nation on Earth. They're calling us heroes, but I'm not sure we deserve that title yet." Morrison smiled grimly. "Maya, we're not heroes. We're just people doing what people do when someone needs help. The fact that no one else in the galaxy has ever done this before doesn't make us special. It just makes the galaxy a sadder place than we thought. As they prepared for their final series of quantum jumps toward the Cathari system, none of the crew could have imagined that their simple act of compassion was about to shatter thousands of years of galactic indifference and change the course of civilizations across the stars. The New Horizon dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Cathari solar system, and what Captain Morrison saw on the main viewing screen made his heart sink. The planet that should have been green and blue was wrapped in a sickly orange glow. The atmosphere itself seemed to be burning as industrial pollutants reacted with increased radiation from the system's aging star. Dr. Maya Chen stood beside Morrison on the bridge, watching their long-range sensors analyze the dying world. "Captain, the atmospheric breakdown is even worse than their distress messages indicated. The air is becoming toxic and the radiation levels are increasing daily." Dr. Paul Harris, their chief atmospheric engineer, looked up from his instruments with grim determination. "Captain, this isn't hopeless. I've seen similar environmental collapses during Earth's climate crisis. The damage is severe, but with the right technology and enough time, we can reverse this." Morrison nodded and activated the communication system. "New Horizon to Cathari homeworld. This is Captain Sam Morrison of Earth. We received your distress call and have come to help. Please respond." The response came within minutes, and when the translation computers converted the alien language to English, the emotion in the voice was unmistakable. "Earth vessel New Horizon, we cannot believe you are real. We have dreamed of this moment for so long that we feared it was madness. Welcome to our dying world." Morrison made the decision to land personally on the planet's surface, taking Dr. Chen and Dr. Harris with him in a shuttle. As they descended through the poisoned atmosphere, they could see the remains of a once great civilization. Massive cities lay abandoned on the surface while the surviving population had retreated to underground refuges. The shuttle landed near the coordinates provided by the Cathari, and the three humans stepped out wearing environmental suits to protect them from the toxic air. What they saw took their breath away. The Cathari were unlike anything they had imagined. They looked like living crystal trees, their bodies made of what appeared to be silicon-based compounds that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. Their leader, who introduced herself as Zathara, stood nearly 8 feet tall with branches that moved gracefully as she communicated through harmonic vibrations that their translation devices converted to speech. "Welcome, beings from Earth," Zathara said, her voice carrying a deep sadness mixed with wonder. "We did not believe any would come. In all our history and all our centuries of calling to the void, we have learned that the galaxy is empty of kindness." Dr. Chen stepped forward, following the first contact protocols she had studied. "Zathara, we came because we believe that no one should face extinction alone. On Earth, when someone calls for help, we answer." Zathara's crystalline branches shimmered with what appeared to be surprise. "Your species does this? You risk yourselves for strangers?" Captain Morrison nodded. "It's what makes us human. We couldn't ignore your call any more than we could ignore a drowning person." As Dr. Harris began analyzing the atmospheric composition with his instruments, Zathara led them deeper into the underground city. The tunnels were filled with thousands of Cathari, their crystal bodies dim with despair. But as word spread that the aliens from Earth had actually arrived, something magical happened. The Cathari began to glow brighter, their natural luminescence returning as hope replaced despair. Zathara showed them records of their civilization's history, including something that chilled the humans to their core. For centuries, the Cathari had been sending and receiving distress calls throughout their region of the galaxy. They had detailed records of 17 different civilizations that had faced extinction in the past 1,000 years. Each time, Zathara explained, her voice heavy with sorrow, we sent offers of help. Each time we received no response. We watched civilizations die while others remained silent. We learned that this is how the galaxy works. When crisis comes, each species faces it alone. Dr. Chen felt sick to her stomach. 17 civilizations? They all died while others just watched? Zathara's response was devastating. The Galactic Observation Council ruled each time that intervention would violate the natural order. They said that helping others would weaken both the helper and the helped. Your species is unprecedented in your response. While the humans struggled with this revelation, Dr. Harris made a discovery that gave them all hope. Working with Cathari scientists, he found that their planet's atmospheric damage could indeed be reversed. Earth's terraforming technology, combined with the Cathari's advanced mineral processing abilities, could restore the planet's atmosphere within months rather than years. "We can save your world," Harris told Zathara, "but we'll need to work together. Human technology and Cathari knowledge combined." For the first time since their arrival, Zathara's crystalline form blazed with bright light. "You would share your technology with us?"
"Even though we have nothing to offer in return."
Morrison smiled. "Zathara, seeing your people live is all the payment we need." Work began immediately on the atmospheric restoration project. The New Horizons crew worked alongside Cathari engineers to modify Earth's terraforming equipment for the alien world's unique chemistry. But their efforts were interrupted when a massive fleet of ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Galactic Observation Council had arrived, led by Elder Vexira of the Altarian hegemony. The alien fleet was enormous, hundreds of ships representing dozens of advanced civilizations that had remained silent for centuries, while other species died. Vexira's message to the New Horizon was broadcast on all frequencies. "Human vessel, you are in violation of galactic non-intervention protocols. You will cease your operations immediately and depart this system. The natural order must not be disturbed." Captain Morrison found himself facing a decision that would determine not just the fate of the Cathari, but the future of galactic civilization itself. He stood on the bridge of his small ship, staring at the massive alien fleet that could destroy them in seconds, and made a choice that surprised even himself. He opened a channel to the entire galactic fleet and spoke words that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. "Elder Vexira, we understand your laws, but we answer to a higher law. When someone calls for help, you answer. You can stop us if you want, but you'll have to explain to your own people why you prevented the saving of an entire civilization." The bridge fell silent as Morrison's words echoed across space. In the underground city below, thousands of Cathari listened to the translation, hardly daring to believe that someone was willing to face the most powerful forces in the galaxy to protect them. The standoff had begun, and the outcome would determine whether the galaxy would continue its tradition of cold indifference or learn something new about the meaning of compassion. The standoff between the tiny human ship and the massive galactic fleet lasted for 6 tense hours. Captain Morrison refused to back down, and Elder Vexira seemed equally determined to stop what she saw as a dangerous violation of galactic law. But something unexpected began happening throughout the galaxy as news of the confrontation spread. Civilizations that had remained silent for millennia started responding to humanity's broadcasts about their rescue mission. On 100 different worlds, beings who had long buried their shame about past failures to help others began to speak out. The carefully maintained order that had governed galactic affairs for thousands of years started to crack. The first to break ranks was Elder Kelmon of the Andromedan Collective. His ancient voice carried across the communication channels as he addressed his own fleet. "I have lived for over 2,000 years, and I have watched 17 civilizations die while we debated protocol and worried about precedent. I will not watch an 18th perish because we are too afraid to do what is right." Kelmon ordered his ships to move away from Vexira's formation and position themselves between the human vessel and the rest of the galactic fleet. His message to the New Horizon was simple. "Captain Morrison, the Andromedan Collective stands with Earth. We will help you save the Cathari." Within hours, the careful unity of the Galactic Observation Council collapsed completely. The Centaurian Republic sent ships loaded with atmospheric processors. The Vegan traders arrived with massive evacuation vessels in case the planet could not be saved in time. Even species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working side by side to help the dying Cathari civilization. Dr. Paul Harris found himself coordinating the largest environmental restoration project in galactic history. Dozens of different technologies from across the galaxy were being combined and modified to work on the Cathari homeworld. What should have taken months was being accomplished in days through the combined efforts of civilizations that had never cooperated before. On the planet's surface, something equally remarkable was happening. Cathari, who had spent their lives in underground shelters, were emerging to work alongside aliens they had never imagined meeting. Dr. Maya Chen watched in amazement as beings from a dozen different worlds collaborated on solutions to problems that had seemed impossible just days before. "This is incredible. Chen told Captain Morrison during one of their daily briefings. We're not just saving a planet, Sam. We're watching the birth of something entirely new. These civilizations are remembering what it means to help each other. Morrison nodded, but his attention was focused on Elder Vexira, who had remained isolated with her loyalist fleet, while the rest of the galaxy worked around her. The Altarian leader had not spoken for 2 days, and Morrison could see her ships holding position like a dark cloud at the edge of the system. The breakthrough came when junior officers in Vexira's own fleet began refusing orders. Captain Torin of the Altarian vessel Judgment sent a message that shocked everyone who heard it. Elder Vexira, I have followed your orders for 60 years, but I will not follow this one. I will not be part of allowing genocide through inaction. The Altarian people deserve better than leaders who choose protocol over compassion. One by one, ships from Vexira's fleet joined the rescue effort. The Elder found herself commanding only a handful of vessels as her own people abandoned the principles she had spent centuries defending. Finally, Vexira requested a private meeting with Captain Morrison. They met in the shuttle bay of the New Horizon, the ancient alien leader towering over the human captain with her elaborate technological armor gleaming under the artificial lights. Captain Morrison, Vexira said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of regret, I have lived for 3,000 years. I have overseen the rise and fall of civilizations. I convinced myself that detachment was wisdom, that survival was more important than compassion. Your species has shown me what we forgot. She paused, and when she continued, her voice was softer. Civilization is not about technology or longevity or power. It is about choosing to care for strangers. It is about answering when someone calls for help. We lost that somewhere along the way. Morrison looked up at the towering alien leader. Elder Vexira, it's not too late. You can still choose to help. For the first time in millennia, Vexira made a decision based on compassion rather than protocol. She ordered her remaining ships to join the rescue effort, and her people worked harder than anyone to make up for their initial resistance. 3 weeks after the New Horizons' arrival, the Cathari homeworld was saved. The atmospheric restoration succeeded beyond all projections, and the planet began to heal with remarkable speed. But the greater victory was what emerged from the crisis. The Galactic Mutual Aid Compact was established on principles that seemed obvious to humans, but revolutionary to the rest of the galaxy. Advanced civilizations would have a responsibility to help those in crisis. No species would face extinction alone. The measure of a civilization would not be its technology, but its willingness to help others. As the New Horizon prepared to return to Earth, Zethara gathered the human crew for a farewell ceremony in the great crystal cavern that served as the Cathari's central meeting place. Her people's natural luminescence filled the chamber with brilliant light as she spoke. Friends from Earth, you answered when no one else would. You came when the galaxy said it was impossible. You saved us not because we deserved it, but because it was right. We will remember this. We will be ready when the next call comes. And because of you, we know now that the next call will not go unanswered. The journey home took only a week using improved quantum drive technology shared by their new galactic allies. When Earth appeared on their screens, Morrison felt a satisfaction he had never experienced before. They had set out to save one civilization and ended up changing the entire galaxy. 6 months later, Dr. Lisa Martinez sat at her monitoring station, older and wiser after her role in humanity's first contact with alien life. She received a new transmission, another distress call from a civilization facing a plague their science could not cure. But this message was different from the desperate plea of the Cathari. This call was addressed specifically to the human-led Galactic Mutual Aid Network. Before Lisa even finished reading it, response signals were already coming in from dozens of species across the galaxy. Medical ships were launching from 100 different worlds. The galaxy had learned to answer when someone called for help. In the final scene, Admiral Sam Morrison stood in the Galactic Aid Coordination Center on Luna, watching holographic displays showing rescue operations across the galaxy. Dr. Maya Chen, now Earth's first galactic ambassador, approached him with the daily reports. Sam, she said, using his first name as she had since their first mission together. Did you ever imagine that one distress call would change everything? Morrison smiled, watching as another rescue fleet prepared for departure to help strangers on a distant world. Maya, that's the thing about doing the right thing. You never know how far the ripples will spread. We just answered a call for help. The galaxy did the rest.